Well, I just accidentally hit the record button, so...
Hey, Omega.
Yes, Gunner.
Do you hear who's joining us this week?
No, I do not.
Well, there's no time for joking around. It's quiet down your shadow. I'm doing him. We can pro wrestling. It's no laughing matter, baby. From Impact to Raw to SmackDown Blue. Oh yeah! You'd be good at laughing times if you only listen to. Woo! Get serious. Oh, woo! Get serious. Oh, woo! Get serious. Enough.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 184 of WOOO Get Serious. My name is Gunner, and that is Omega PR.
Wow, those sounds remind me of fond days at camp.
Yes, when you used to do this podcast for some reason or another. Back in the nether years of the internet.
Well, I did go squat in the woods by myself and talk very loudly.
I figured as much. Alright, let's start with the news. PW Insider reports that WWE officials did not panic over Seth Rollins' injury, as Roman Reigns winning the WWE World Heavyweight title and taking it to the WrestleMania season had already been in the books. There is, however, a big push this past week in creative to make Dean Ambrose the new champion. Rollins was scheduled to face Triple H at the big event, likely in the mid-card, and Reigns vs. Lesnar now seems to like the top main event prospect. Apparently, Lesnar was recently added even more money and dates, and The Rock most likely won't be wrestling due to an insurance problem with his latest movie. Vince McMahon reportedly keeps going back and forth on Daniel Bryan's status. So, okay, first it's the doctors, now it's Vince McMahon. I think we're all getting worked here.
I think he could come back if they wanted him to. I'm just not convinced that they want him to. I think that part of it is the obvious health concern, but another part of it is really I think they very reluctantly put the title on him, and I'm not trying to say that they're, purposely keeping him away from the roster or anything, but I think they're trying to do something, and bringing him back would potentially, well, especially if he's not 100%, which it sounds like he's not, bringing him back would kind of hinder what they're trying to do, if you know what I mean.
Right. It would end up being that he would draw all the stuff, and it's like, you could make money with this guy if he's not 100%. And it's just this terrible dichotomy of they can make a bunch of money. They can make a bunch of money, and they could sacrifice his health, which is what they've been doing to wrestlers this entire time. I just don't and you don't want to you don't want him to get over because he got over by himself. Go figure, right?
Well, I think it's interesting this idea that Dean Ambrose might be the guy. I mean, that another reason why they really shouldn't have panicked is they have plenty of options. They had of course Sheamus with the Money in the Bank. They have Dean Ambrose. They could turn him or even turn Reigns. They have several top guys. They have Owens. They have even some top other faces. Cesaro. In fact, I would even go so far as to say Reigns, out of at least the quarterfinals of this tournament, I would say that Reigns is probably the low man on the totem pole, so to speak. I think that's not to say he's bad by any means, bad in the ring or not even necessarily on the mic, but he's not stellar. And if you look at guys who are, in one way or the other, stellar, I think you come up with some of the names in this tournament, be it Owens or Cesaro or who have you.
Right, exactly, and there are just a ton of options that they could go with, and I would agree, and I'm agreeing with everybody else that I've been noticing who's been commenting about this, and they've been saying, that hey, I would be interested in this if Roman Reigns lost during the tournament. Last week was the perfect time for him to do that and have Cesaro get pushed, but of course, we have to see Reigns all the way go to the main event here, or at least to the pay-per-view itself. It should be interesting to see who they actually put over. And if they decide to swerve us with Sheamus, because sooner or later, that stupid Money in the Bank contract has got to get off of him, because it's just awful, the fact that it's on him.
I really don't like the fact that a lot of their thought process, particularly with creative, seems to be, let's build and build and build and build. And I use the term build loosely, because it's really just a progression, it's kind of like building an anthill just to get to the point where some kid with a magnifying glass comes and burns them all.
Right.
The idea of let's, plod this along, let's make this big tournament that Reigns has already completely pegged to win. And then at the end, we might maybe do something that's interesting, It's kind of like with another good example, I think, is the Divas division and what it's doing right now and how all of a sudden we're supposed to care about this match.
Well, we're supposed to care about the finals of this tournament. We're not supposed to care about the tournament itself. That's the problem, because we had some interesting matches in here with, with Neville, and that ADR Kalisto match was supposed to be really good, but it wasn't. Just no, not at all.
That was a pretty bad. That thing came clean off.
Absolutely ridiculous. Okay, at the end of the day, we'll get into our predictions here in a little bit. So, what should we call it? I'm not terribly surprised that Rollins that the Rollins injury wasn't that big of a deal. Moving on.
Yes, well, it seems Ring of Honor will be leaving Destination America for the new Sinclair Sci-Fi Network, Comet, at the beginning of December. Their marketing manager, Matt Myers Jr., is also departing the company. There is concern, or possible paranoia, within TNA that Destination America purposely used Ring of Honor to help deter TNA's viewership, as part of their contract stated that if they hit a certain viewership mark, they would get an automatic 2 to 3 year renewal. And the idea being that once they got close to that mark, that's when the rumors of TNA being canceled and Ring of Honor's joining the network happened. TNA has been talking with WGN America and Pop TV, the former TV Guide channel. The second season of Lucha Underground will indeed go in a more supernatural direction to set up interest for a spin-off movie. Brooke Adams revealed, or at least indicated, that she is done with TNA for the time being. And Abyss revealed on the Ross Report that he had an offer to go to WWE in 2006, but stayed with TNA at the last minute due to being there from the start. He claims he would have debuted at the Royal Rumble and then would face The Undertaker at WrestleMania 23.
I could have seen that happening, to be perfectly honest. Abyss was getting really big back in the day, back in 2006, especially with, whatchamacallit? What's his name? The Sinister Minister.
James Mitchell.
There you go, James Mitchell. No, they had a really good gimmick back then, and if you haven't watched 2005, 2006 TNA, you really should. I know, TNA, watchable? When? 2005, 2006, when they actually trying to go to 2 hours on Spike TV and try to get out of the death slot on Saturday nights.
And I remember when they actually invaded and Abyss was with them, they invaded the commercial shoot for Royal Rumble 2005, which was the whole West Side Story theme. They were filming it in a lot in Florida, and right near where TNA was, and a few of them, Abyss brought a cake and some balloons, and a few of them went over there, and WWE never acknowledged it, of course, and of course TNA plastered it all over television.
Right, exactly. They were going to end up on WGN America, but if you remember correctly, WGN America wanted them to wait until spring of 2015 to actually re-debut instead of just being consistently on TV, which is what they should have probably done in the first place. But, it happens. So I see them actually ending up there. Maybe not Pop TV. From what I understand with the Pop TV deal, they would buy television time on Pop TV and then make it back by selling advertising time.
Basically, yeah. Which I think is a fair strategy, but it depends on kind of the Destination America thing. A lot of their sponsors didn't want to be on pro wrestling, so you have to wonder how many sponsors are going to be on a wrestling show on what is essentially the TV Guide network, and who really needs TV Guide anymore when you have the internet?
Exactly.
And DVRs and all that other stuff.
I don't see this conspiracy crap going on. I don't think that's actually the case. I think that Destination America was looking at them and going, well, I think it would be a really good idea if we didn't, continue on with them, and really we just want to move on from the nasty business practices that they had, because at the same time that we're talking about here in this quote unquote conspiracy, we also had that other drama going on with contracts and whatnot. I forget who it was, maybe Angle or something like that. But you remember in the middle of the year they had a bunch of disputes and stuff, and not being able to pay their workers. There's that too. And
Dixie
that's
CC,
a bunch of negative press.
A bunch of their executives calling them idiots and everything.
Right, exactly. All right, and apparently Bruce Pritchard said on another podcast somewhere that the sci-fi movie thingy for Lucha Underground is total bullshit. Like, they're not even going for that, apparently. And they've already started taping for Lucha Underground Season 2, by the way. So you should look forward to that relatively shortly. Alright, moving on to the last news bit here. John Cena will host a new competition on Fox called American Grit, in which 16 contestants compete in a military and survival-themed challenges while being mentored by military leaders. They already did this show. It's called Boot Camp. It was from 2000. Go look it up. It was actually a really good show.
Yeah, I like that show a lot.
Billy Gunn was fired by the WWE after he learned he failed a test for performance-enhancing drugs at a powerlifting event in Florida, subsequently being banned from competition for 4 years. Billy Gunn is like 50-something, just so you all know. And he's still doing powerlifting. Hot damn. WWE wasn't even aware of his competing, and apparently don't test their performance center coaches and staff, but had to let him go because, if you get tested, and you got to set an example. And Sami Zayn was seen doing light workout at the center, but his recovery progress hasn't gone as well as expected. He'll be back in the Royal Rumble. I guarantee you Sami Zayn will be in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, I think that's a fair prediction. I think, I think he could be in the Rumble. That doesn't necessarily mean that he'll be back full time, but I think he'll be in the Rumble.
No, because, you remember when Cena came back, Cena wasn't back full time. When Cena came back in the Rumble, he came back a month early, and he wasn't, and he did as little work as possible in that match to actually look good. So he should be all right, relatively speaking, by the end of January. But, we'll see. So, all right, that American Grit show should be interesting. Pushing more pseudo American military stuff there, though, with John Cena. He's really talented at that. So
anyway, it's going to be 16 people and 4 teams. So I'm guessing 4 people to a team, and then at the end of each episode, they have to endure the circus, which is a brutal military-inspired obstacle course.
Oh God! It sounds like somebody's just gonna blow up and puke, and they're gonna get sued or something.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the same thing every time. Like, what is it? The team that doesn't cross, or the team that finishes last has to vote somebody out, or
probably
eliminated. Exactly. I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe somebody who did the worst time or something like that on the team. Or like the worst team time or something like that, and they have an elimination challenge or some sort. Alright, enough of the news. Let's get in here to the 15-minute time limit. This week on the 15-minute time limit, we're going to get into Survivor Series predictions, the biggest pay-per-views of the year. And we're going to talk here for about 15 minutes, and let's go. So we'll start here at the bottom. Undertaker and Kane versus two members of the Wyatt family, more than likely Harper and Rowan, if I had to take a guess.
No, I think it's going to be Wyatt and Strowman.
All right. Well, two different opinions here.
Well, I think it only makes sense. I see what you're getting at, where they're kind of the starter team and then maybe progress to Wyatt. But I think we're already at the point where, you got Undertaker and Kane in a match. Undertaker in a match that's not WrestleMania. That whole thing. So I think you might as well just do it with the two. Well, I think Strowman, regardless, because he's the brawn, he's the big guy, he's the new one.
Keep talking, hold on.
Yes. But who wins the match? Do you think the brothers might actually lose? Hello? Oh, I'm sorry to say this, folks, but it appears we have technical difficulties, meaning that I am the one remaining member of the WGS team here live on the air. And that being the case, I'd like to get a few things off my chest. Really just predictions for Survivor Series, I suppose. Anyhow. We have, there is a traditional Survivor Series elimination match with participants to be named. It's going to be a 5-on-5 elimination match. Just in case you were scrambling, worrisome at the idea that they would not have one. They did in fact have one, I think even two if I remember right, but they had one on television. That big Raw, that big Raw main event. And then, but anyhow, I imagine, you'll probably have a mishmash of faces and heels from the tournament and otherwise, your Rybacks, your Usos perhaps, your Sheamuses maybe, Barrett, etc. And I predict the faces will probably win.
Really?
We've got the semifinals. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here for a second. I'm sorry, somebody was at the door. Whatchamacallit? I had so did we predict that Taker and Kane would win that one match? Because that's what I think.
Yeah, that's probably where I would lean, because, what good does it really do for the Wyatts to win a match, unless they want to extend this thing, which, what good would that do anyhow?
Right. I don't know. I could see this go. I could see Taker going over because it's the 25th anniversary and whatnot, and it doesn't make any sense for the Wyatts to win at all.
Doesn't really make any sense for them to be there in the first place. So.
But mind you, they don't make sense whatsoever. So it fits right in with their gimmick.
I mentioned the traditional Survivor Series elimination match that will happen with participants to be named.
So basically, all of the losers, with the faces winning, like you were saying a second ago.
Then we have the semifinals of the storied WHC tournament: Roman Reigns versus Alberto Del Rio.
Roman Reigns obviously will go over in this match. This match will be kind of boring. People will shit all over it. Where's Survivor Series this year? Do you know?
What's that?
Where is Survivor Series this year?
Oh, where is it? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Looking it up right now. At the Phillips Arena.
Atlanta, Georgia, that's right.
Georgia. Alright. So it'll be in Atlanta, so it'll be a smarky city. So, people will be...
I think somewhat, yeah. I mean, not to the degree of, say, a New York or Chicago. I don't think Reigns will be booed out of the building, but there may be a period where we hear some audible boos.
Absolutely, just like there was previously. I mean, he's been getting audible boos for a little while now. I don't see Alberto winning this at all. It's going to be Reigns and Owens in the finals, and it's going to be a really good match, in my opinion. Do you believe that it's going to be Reigns and Owens, or do you believe it's going to be Reigns and Ambrose?
My head says Reigns and Owens, but my heart says they might actually do Reigns and Ambrose, because I feel like the Shield has always kind of been a special thing to them. I think they went with Rollins being the man, the extended series. They've had Reigns and Ambrose be buddy-buddy for a while. Even if one of them doesn't turn, or even if Reigns does fulfill his destiny and become champion, I'm actually kind of leaning toward Reigns and Ambrose. I think it purely, there are times when there are matches like this where we think, that would be pretty interesting. And I think for once, in the back of their minds, that's kind of what they're thinking too. It's like, well, you know what, this would actually be interesting. I kind of want to see that. I kind of don't want to just make sense and do face versus heel and have Reigns go over in this. I kind of want to play with it like this,
Right. I don't see... It either ends one of two ways for me. Roman Reigns wins the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and nothing happens. One of three ways. That Owens wins, and he's the heel that Reigns has to chase after Owens cheating or something, selling out to the Authority, or Sheamus cashes in. After one of their wins, or neither of them might win, and Sheamus just might cash in the middle of the match like Rollins did. But mind you, I think if he tried that, he would be unsuccessful or something like that. Maybe he'll just cash in and just be unsuccessful, which would be fantastic. Which would get rid of that stupid case, and would it infuriates me that he won. It infuriates me that he carries it around so that he reminds people that he won, and that it's just absolutely ridiculous that that there isn't some sort of way that they can get it off of him and get it onto somebody who needs it. I think Kevin Owens next year would be like the number one guy to win that belt, because his character and the way that he handles himself would be perfect for that. But I'm getting off topic here. So at the end of the day, I think that like Omega said, my heart says Reigns and Ambrose, but my head says Reigns and Owens, and Reigns goes over, and then it may or may not be a Sheamus cash-in.
Well, I may come to regret this, but I'm actually thinking Sheamus will not cash in. It seemed like such a foregone conclusion, but now with all of this talk of maybe Ambrose getting in the mix or what have you, and Reigns always being the plan and this and that, it just seems a little more unlikely that this will be the time for Sheamus to do so.
Right. And then there's Dolph Ziggler versus Tyler Breeze, which is just a feud made of itself. It's absolutely ridiculous. According to some of the fucking dirt sheets, apparently they've already decided that Tyler Breeze is just going to be a mid card for life, and he's might as well. And on SmackDown this week, actually, spoilers, he used the Unprettier as a finisher.
Well, I don't think. Well, he's done it before a few times. I don't think you have to kind of set it in stone and say, Breeze is going to be this guy in the middle for life. There was a time, at least, I think there was, when we weren't so obsessed with, just how far these guys were going to go, and, you could accept that certain people either wouldn't ever make the main event, or, it just wasn't anything that you thought about. I mean, goodness knows I never thought Bradshaw from the APA would be world champion, and then all of a sudden he was. I think it's one of, like you said, it's a match that is in of itself. I think you don't look at it in terms of, well, if Ziggler needs to win because, he needs a win, or Breeze needs to win because he's the new kid on the block and he needs to kind of stay in the ranks. I think it's just a match where, they can put on a good match and whoever wins wins, and that's kind of how it goes. I mean, it's hard to think of matches like that in those terms these days, because so many of them are just sort of predicated by this idea that nobody really has a strong character, and we don't really get backstage segments and promos and silliness like Breeze having his little VIP section at ringside. That doesn't really happen all that much anymore, and that's why so many matches, the only story we can create within our own minds is, well, if this guy wins against that guy, well, then maybe he's one step closer to something that matters, which usually means the main event / the championship.
Right.
But I do think Breeze is going to go over. I think he is kind of the new guy on the block, and it doesn't really matter who wins this match, but I think it would probably be more. It just seems like Breeze would win, being that he is the newer guy and showing off his stuff.
I think that I agree with you that Breeze is going to get his first pay-per-view victory here, and it should be fun to see him actually win a match instead of being a jobber to the stars. And then Charlotte versus Paige. I don't think we talked about that.
This probably the worst feud in the promotion. And it's so weird, as I mentioned earlier, that on Raw they give them the main event segment. They make a big deal out of the contract signing, and within 2 minutes of the promo, you had at least 3 instances of just hokey, contrived. Charlotte saying, "I didn't get in this business to make friends. I actually looked up to you, though, and I wanted to be you," and Paige with her dumb, stupid, trying really hard to be sarcastic, and I don't know if it's her accent or the way. I don't want to sound xenophobic or anything here, but I don't know if it's her accent, the way she talks, or what. But when she does that, it just sounds like it's so forced and just really bad acting, and I think it's her pacing. I think she needs to pick up the pace a little bit when she talks like that, because, I don't know, like, she sounds
Paige
like...
felt like she was on point. Charlotte sounds like she's just fucking lost.
Well, I think they both were doing bad at first, and then Charlotte brings up, which, by the way, the only way you would kind of know this if you're a casual viewer would be if you watched the network special, Table for Three, where it was Charlotte, Tamina, and I think Natalia talking about, growing up in the business, or having fathers that did. And in the special, Charlotte brings up her brother Reed, who, really kind of pushed for her to get into the business, because, she would be around when Flair was inducted with the Four Horsemen, and then everybody's kind of telling her, well, why didn't you ever get into it, and this and that, and then Reed's the one really bugging her to do it, and they can get an apartment together, and this and that, and this and that. And then, of course, Reed passed away of a drug overdose, and that's why they really brought it up during this promo. But again, other than Paige losing to Becky Lynch, I really don't remember anything that could be considered actual build and excitement for this match until this final main event promo segment, contract signing. And then, all of a sudden Charlotte turns it around. She's getting genuinely emotional as she recounts, she kind of mentions her brother and everything. And you think, wow, here's some actual emotion as opposed to, reciting your lines. And then a few minutes later, she went back to reciting her lines with the whole, shut, ... your mouth. That whole thing. And then, of course, Paige brings it up again. And, it's quote-unquote controversial. But I don't have a problem with the fact that they did it, because there's no way they're going to do it without Charlotte either thinking of it or being on board with it. have a problem with the fact that, you bring this up at the peak of a blood feud, basically, and this is not that. This is, like I said, one of the worst feuds, if not the worst, in the promotion. Trying to inject all of this into it at the very last minute, just doesn't do it.
This should have been the first thing. This should have been the first thing out of her mouth. And this segment was just bad. And it was designed to be bad. It didn't look very good. It was just something that wasn't, it didn't look professional. It didn't look right.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on the ability of the women or the fact that they are women or anything like that, but when I say this, but it really felt like a poor attempt to do what the guys do, basically. Between the bringing up the family, which they should have done a long time ago, quite frankly, because both Paige, that's something you can completely build on. Paige and Charlotte both being from a wrestling family, and Paige actually wrestling at age 15 or whatever it was, and Charlotte having to be convinced, basically, that because she was a Flair, that she could actually do it, and then lo and behold, as Paige is kind of, sort of, minusculely brought up before, Charlotte, because she's Ric Flair's daughter, gets her spot, in WWE and everything. They should have been building on that a long time ago, and then the whole brawl.
I think they have the heel and the face wrong in this. To be perfectly honest.
You think
Paige
so?
should be Paige should be the baby, and Charlotte should be the heel. To be perfectly honest, we don't know Paige's family in the WWE. We don't know who Saraya Knight is, but we do know who Ric Flair is, and Ric Flair is the dirtiest player in the game. Why wouldn't his daughter be the dirtiest woman in the game? Come on.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. And the only reason this feud exists in the first place is because Paige all of a sudden decided to throw a tantrum and say, well, you're the champion and I'm not, and that's not what I meant when I started this whole thing, which, by the way, has been completely dumb.
Right.
Plus Paige turning on PCB at least 2 or 3 different
Five
times.
Five times. 2 times on Raw, 3 times on SmackDown. At least.
Yeah, so, it just proves they really don't know what they're doing with it. And I kind of have to throw some blame at Triple H and Stephanie because, they're the big proponents of this whole thing. But then, now granted, Vince is the be-all, end-all word, but I have a hard time believing that they can't, take the reins
Vince,
on
leave
this.
this the fuck alone. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sure Charlotte will win.
All right, let's go on here. Dairy Queen drive-thru.
Oh, we missed.
What did we miss? No, I don't think we missed anything.
Yeah, no, we did talk about the final.
We talked about the final. We limped it all into one conversation.
Okay, yeah. All right, so on paper, more interesting Survivor Series than usually because it's usually considered the worst of the big 4, isn't it?
Usually, yeah. Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. To be honest, hey, think about this. A couple years ago, Survivor Series, CM Punk started his 434-day reign. ADR is competing for the WWE Championship yet again. Go figure, right? All right, Dairy Queen drive-thru with the ratings. You could read those. I'll get the birthdays.
I could. Impact had 277,000 viewers, up from 262,000. Ring of Honor was up 172,000 from 141. On SmackDown, they had 2.294 million, up from 2.123 million. And on Raw, it was actually up 3.29 million from 3.173 million.
Happy birthdays. On the 17th, Jay Bradley and Ryan Braddock.
or they might be the same person. I don't remember. On the 18th, the Hawaiian Tornado, Taio K.
They are.
Oh, okay. Big Ron Stud, Reese. On the 18th, on the 19th, Miss Elizabeth. On the 20th, Sorelda / Jamie Dauncey. On the 21st, the Bella Twins, Shane Douglas, Ryota Hama, Cassidy Riley, Shingo Takagi, and the Hawaiian Samoan Efa. On the 22nd, Lash LaRoe. On the 23rd, El Legido, Taylor Matheny, Snooki, and Kohi Suwama. And now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, this weekend, wrestling history, circa 1964, where Martino Angelo defeats Danny Ferrazza to win the Wolverine Wrestling Midwest Heavyweight title in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Jump to 1971, where Kenji Shibuya and Masa Saito win their second NWA America's Tag Team title, defeating Pantera Negra and Salvador Lothario. And in 1988, Jason the Terrible defeats TNT, also known as Juan Rivera, for the WWC Caribbean Heavyweight title in Carolina, Puerto Rico. And that was This Weekend Wrestling History.
Happy trails to the Bellas, Jeremy Borash, and all of those who were in Paris this week affected by the tragic attacks. The Bellas apparently were 15 minutes away from one of those attacks in a hotel in Paris. Also, another somber happy trails to WWE legend Nick Bockwinkel, who passed away Saturday at the age of 80. Now that is a statistic that I'm actually pleased to see. Not that I would like Nick to go. Not that I'm happy that Nick has died, but that he actually lived a ripe old age and that he was able to, live a full life, if you would. A former AWA champion. Go back on the WWE Network and check him out. All right, so what should we watch this week in wrestling, Omega?
Well, speaking of Bockwinkel, a lot of people, they mentioned perhaps the greatest AWA champion of all time. I would say many fine matches, but I would suggest Bockwinkel versus Kurt Hennig from AWA.
This week I spent watching some stuff on Netflix, and apparently the Mick Foley documentary about Christmas is on there, and what I'm going to tell you guys to watch this week is because it's really awesome. The Sheik documentary, the Iron Sheik documentary called The Sheik. Just Google, look for that on Netflix, and it's maybe about an hour and 20 minutes, and it gives you basically the summary of what's happened to the Sheik, what happens with Sheiky Baby, how he went from a boy in Iran who loves wrestling more than he loves girls to, fuck you in the ass and make you humble. Really, really interesting. Highly recommended. All right, so I think that's it for this week. All right, we got everything? Yeah?
Yeah, all night I've been trying to think of something I could say that would remind us of our dear friend Netchester, and I just can't do it. I can't replicate the unreplicable.
I know his insanity just is absolutely infectious, and him this week he's off busy. I think he's at work at this particular point because we had to cancel last night. Jacob also had a family emergency. If you guys want to keep him in your thoughts, or tweet us at SmarkSnark and send him some well wishes. They make him real happy. So you can check us out online at smarksnark.com. Spreaker.com/smarksnark has all of our shows. SoundCloud.com/smarksnark, I believe, also has a backlog of our shows. We're looking into uploading all of our old shows there. We're also on YouTube. YouTube.com/smarksnark. Give us a phone call. 812-908 812-408-9666 or 812-408-WOO. Twitter.com, Facebook.com, smarksnark@gmail.com if you're a promoter and you want to, get on the show and promote your stuff. We get out to a bunch of people, and you should check us out and definitely take advantage of that. All right, so there's probably going to be a little dead air here,
So I apologize in advance, as we are not, as we are not in control of the bot this particular evening, but we wish you well in your past, present, and future endeavors.
Yes, and good night, Netchester, wherever you are.